Professor Hussein Kende Okoro is readily available to take the baton from Professor Ojo after today's lecture. So happy preparation, sir. He's coming from the Faculty of Physical Sciences and Department of Industrial Chemistry. And for the Faculty of Social Sciences, well, the story from arts and arts and business studies to business and social sciences, now to having social science, the management science after the last split. So this is the journey. And ladies and gentlemen, the current dean of the faculty, I saw him, is there, seated solidly beside, our inaugural lecturer. But then someone handed the baton over to him. And this is talking, and the person that handed the baton of leadership at the faculty level to the incumbent dean is also from the department of Professor Ojo, the political science. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Professor Adedoyin Jolade Omede. Thank you, man. Thank you for all that you're doing. And we want to welcome also, join me to welcome Emeritus Professor J.A.A. Ayoade. You are not clapping very well, and I know why. I won't blame you yet, but I will blame you after telling you this, and you're still not clapping. Professor Ayoade supervised the PhD thesis of the inaugural lecturer of today. So if there's anything like grand professor, you look in the direction of Emeritus Professor Ayoade. Sir, you are very much welcome. You're welcome, sir. I say grand professor because even Professor Ojo, who has been in the services of this university 30 years ago, he has produced his own, other professors. So if those ones are his children, and he is also a child to Professor Ayoade, so that is qualified to be called a grand professor. You are very much welcome, sir. Now, once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's jam our hands together. And the current head of the department, political science, Dr. We don't have political science students here. Dr. Abdikarim Adu, you are welcome, sir. And you know what stands that department out again, as far as this university is concerned? The #1 student is also from the department. The president, student union executive of this university. Is he in the house yet? Comrade Idris Adelu. I want to believe he will be joining us much later. So let's appreciate him even in his absence. So, I welcomed people earlier, also from Lagos. This is because the wife of our inaugural lecturer is from Unilag. So if you are from Unilag here, we are welcoming you. Please, let's appreciate them. Yes, Professor Omede. Professor Omede is an Akokite, so you're welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, for the children who've been making things easy for Professor Ojo, it's not easy. I'll introduce the madam to us. Just give us a moment. Let's appreciate the children, ladies and gentlemen. It seems the time will not permit us to continue this way, but then I'd like us to know that this 191st is the third from the department. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we arise to welcome the procession of the Vice Chancellor. Please do not stand in the way of the procession. Do not exchange pleasantries with the procession. And do not cross the procession. Ladies and gentlemen, we remain standing as we observe the university anthem. Thank you very much. Please be seated.
No problem. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Wahab Egbewole, SAN, the Vice Chancellor of the University, I welcome you all to the lecture to be presented to the 291 inaugural lecture titled The Worship of an Unknown Deity, to be presented by Professor Olugbade Emmanuel Ojo. Will the inaugural lecturer stand also that I read his citation? Professor Olugbade Emmanuel Ojo was born on the 16th April 1962 in Ibadan, Onora local government area of Oyo State. He attended CAC Grammar School, Ibadan, between 1977 and 1982 for his secondary education and Polytechnic of Ibadan between 1985 and 1987. He obtained his Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science in 1990, Master of Science in Political Science in 1992, and PhD in Political Science in 2002, all from the University of Ibadan. Professor Ojo joined the services of the University of Ilorin as an assistant lecturer in the Department of Political Science in 1995 and rose through the ranks to become a professor of political science in 2020. His area of specialization is comparative politics. Professor Ojo has successfully supervised several undergraduate students, 14 of them, MSc, and then 3 PhD students. He's a member of many learned and professional bodies. These include National Political Science Association, African Association of Political Science, American Studies Association of Nigeria, African Study Association of UK. He's been an editorial board member, Armed Forces and Society, Texas State University, USA, among many others. He has served in various capacities within and outside the country, and these include acting head of the Department of Political Science from 2008 to 2009, postgraduate coordinator from 2004 to 2012, departmental examination officer from 2003 to 2004, special advisor on political matters of Oyo State Governor from 2014 to 2015. He's also been Chief of Staff to Oyo State Governor 2015 to 2019. This is just to mention a few. Professor Ojo has over 100 publications in reputable home-based, national and international journals. Also edited conference proceedings and chapters in books. He has served as external examiner in many universities across Nigeria. He has also attended many conferences, workshops, and seminars. He is a recipient of several awards, which include Welfare Development Farmers Association Award of Excellence. That was in 2014. Merit Award by Oyo Herald New Magazine, 2018. He has written over 90 articles in newspapers and news magazines in Nigeria. He's also a devoted Christian who has contributed toward the service of good and humanity. Professor Olugbade Emmanuel Ojo is happily married, and the union is blessed with children. I therefore present Professor Olugbade Emmanuel Ojo to present the 2091 inaugural lecture of University of Ilorin.
the Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Management Services, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Technology and Innovation, the Registrar, the Bursar, the University Librarian, the Provost, College of Earth Sciences, Deans of Faculties, most especially the Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, Dean of Postgraduate School and Student Affairs, professors and other members of Senate, Director of Units, Heads of Department, most especially Head, Department of Political Science, other members of the academic staff, other members of the administrative and technical staff, my Lord, spiritual and temporal, distinguished invited guests, distinguished students of the Department of Political Science, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Preamble. Mr. Vice Chancellor, let me begin this inaugural lecture with a funny story of how I became an accidental political scientist. As an apprentice typist, I had nurtured the idea of becoming a barrister at law. And the reason was that as a public letter writer, as we were called then, one of our duties was preparing different kinds of legal documents, such as purchase agreement, conveyance, and several other legal documents. This no doubt spurred me into wanting to read law. However, as fate will have it, one day, as I was filling the JAMB form, my father of blessed memory was passing by and asked what I was doing. I told him I was filling JAMB form. He then inquired what course I was preparing for. In pronto, I told him law. Very funny. He asked whether I was preparing for hellfire after this temporal existence. My father, being a deeply religious person, was of the opinion that lawyers might not meet heaven. I tried to convince him that I just wanted to practice law for a while and then move to the bench from the bar. He considered that as a double jeopardy by mentioning some judges whose hands were known to be tied while delivering celebrated political judgment. After a long argument, I agreed with my dad, and without beating a breath, changed the course choice from law to political science to avoid hellfire, according to my dad. Vice Chancellor, sir, that was how I became a student of political science and pressed on until I attained the zenith of my career, even though such an argument from my late unlettered father could not dissuade my youngest son from reading law. Though there are political scientists who came about or rather into political science by accident, and I am one of them. But in all of this, to God indeed be the glory. Introduction. With that preamble, Mr. Vice Chancellor, the title of my lecture is The Worship of an Unknown Deity. Let me add that ever since I dabbled into political science, my works have been in comparative politics generally and area studies specifically. The geographical area is my country, Nigeria. This was born out of patriotic zeal, not only to understand our polity, but also to provide solutions to the myriad of political problems staring us in the face. Doing this, I focused on federal studies, political communication, civil-military relations, democracy, democratization, and lately, legislative studies. Meanwhile, my first love has always been federalism, to which I devoted my doctoral thesis, with a conclusion that much as we have adopted federalism, with its classical foundation laid as far back as 1954 by Littleton Constitution, Nigeria keeps on groping in the dark by worshipping an unknown deity. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the case of Nigeria with federalism, as we shall see later in this lecture, is indeed similar to the biblical story of the Athenians. No doubt, Athenians were too superstitious Apostle Paul said he was passing by and saw a lot of them devoted to many gods, and one of their temples specifically devoted to the unknown God, which they worshipped ignorantly. What a striking similarity with Nigerians. Ever since 1954, when federalism was adopted because of the size and ethnic conglomerate of Nigeria. However, Nigeria has found it extremely difficult to imbibe the tenets and basic canons of federal principles and practices, as we shall see later in this lecture, proving that Nigerians lack the federal spirit to accommodate each other and one another for national integration and national development. Mr. Vice Chancellor, it is instructive to note that inaugural lectures are far in between from political science department. The first we ever had was delivered by Professor Adeoye Akisanya of blessed memory, entitled Transnational Corporations and Economic Nationalism in the Third World. This was on 6th December 1984, and by the way, it was a time the department was known as Department of Government and Public Administration. It was some 3 decades later that Professor Majid Alabi, seated here, delivered another one entitled Politics and Law, Anatomy of the Siamese Twins, on 13th November 2014. It is assumed that this one may, however, open a floodgate of inaugural lectures from the political science department. All other things being equal. The poorer character of Nigeria, Mr. Vice Chancellor, it is imperative to note ab initio the poorer character of Nigeria for us to be able to appreciate the enormity of the problem we are confronted with in terms of the challenge of national integration. Nigeria, like several other new states and segmented societies, must contend with the problem of integrating our numerous and diverse ethnic groups that constitute the Federation of June 2002. Nigeria has well over 400 ethnic groups of June 2009. Nigeria is one of the most ethnically diverse countries in all regions and climes of the world, and some of the ethnic groups are bigger than many states of contemporary Africa. At the beginning of the 1960s, there were over 3,000 ethnic groups in the whole world. About 1,000 were represented in the continent of Africa, and 405 of these in Nigeria alone. It is not amazing, therefore, that these ethnic groups are always in conflict and competition over resources. This is not unexpected, especially between ethnically defined constituencies. The reason is that almost by definition, ethnic groups compete for the strategic scarce resources of their respective societies. The nature of ethnic groupings in each society and the competitive short-term tactics and long-term strategies they employ are functions of history and of the resources they seek to control. Ojo 2009. The poorer and deeply divided character of Nigerian state makes federalism a viable option. Conceptualization of federalism. The primary requirement for debating anything is to understand first and foremost the actual thing being talked about. Ojo 2006. Though the concepts used in this lecture are quite well known, widely used, and to a large extent self-explanatory, it may nevertheless be useful to profile the working definitions of the principal concepts in order to minimize the possibility of misinterpretation. The primary reason for this is not unconnected with the fact that concepts may have both cultural and ideological contextualization, more so than concepts like power, justice, peace, and equality, federalism, and national integration, which development fall into this category of essentially contested concepts. Federalism is a constitutional mechanism for dividing power among different levels of government so that federating units can enjoy substantial and constitutionally guaranteed autonomy over certain policy areas while sharing power in accordance with agreed rules over their areas. Thus, federalism combines partial self-government with partial shared government. Federal systems are usually associated with culturally diverse or territorially large countries. Notable examples of federal countries are countries with federal-like characteristics, sometimes referred to as quasi-federations, include Argentina, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, and United States of America. Rather than extend our postulations on the conceptualization of federalism endlessly, as I do better to ask the question that readily comes to mind: how does one design a federal system of government until 2009? Or put differently, which polity qualifies to be called a federal state? More so in the face of numerous postulations of which Franke compounded our pursuit with an identification of as many as 400 times of federal models. To this, we can allude to a typology by Dudley, which is still valid for recognition and identification of a federal state, with these four possible combinations. Type 1, a federal constitution with federal practice. Type 2, a non-federal constitution but with federal practice. Type 3, a federal constitution but with non-federal practice. Type 4, a non-federal constitution with non-federal practice. From this typology, Nigeria represents a polity with a federal constitution to some extent, but non-federal practice in virtually all ramifications, simply because an average Nigerian completely lacks federal spirit to drive the system. This will be demonstrated later in this lecture while discussing the travails of federalism in Nigeria. This is perhaps the greatest bone of contention in Nigerian federalism, and similarly bone of contentment. The travails of federalism. Ever since the 1954 Constitution that laid the foundation for Nigeria's classical federal arrangement, it has been one stress or the other for the system. Indeed, the heightened disappointment with the convoluting federalism has been exacerbated in the last 25 years of federal democracy. This has resulted in stringent calls for alternative model of government from confederal options, or at best, a political restructuring of the polity, or even at worst, total dismemberment of the country, as was the experience of the former Soviet Union, which came into being as far back as 1914 through the Iron Fist of Joseph Stalin. Same year that both the northern and southern protectorate of Nigeria were amalgamated. The collapse of former Soviet Union was hinged on Russian hegemony in the Federation. This is being replicated, especially in Nigeria, with the perceived political domination of northern Nigeria in the present convoluting federal arrangement, Ojo 2009. In essence, a number of reasons can be adduced for the travails of federalism in recent years. To start with, the degree of loyalty to the Constitution, particularly the sections relating to the former divisions of power between and among levels of government, are important to federal stability. But unfortunately, the form and character of the ruling elite is indeed antithetical to federal stability, Ojo 2024. Inasmuch as federalism is basically a juristic concept, much of its successes or failures will depend on the extent to which the central and constituent government define their powers, territories, and other provisions in the Constitution, Ojo 2015. A good example of treating the Constitution with levity and disdain among the tiers of government is the recent judicial intervention in the suit filed by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, challenging the state governors' control of local government funds, thus denying them of their autonomy. The Supreme Court had to declare that government is portioned into 3 tiers: federal, state, and local. In flagrant disobedience to the Constitution, state governors became emperors, pretending for years as if Nigeria is not a 3-tier of government, going by the provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Surprisingly, months after the Supreme Court gave the judgment against the states, maintaining leverage over local government finances through the state joint account with local government, the local government economic conundrum is yet to be resolved. The Supreme Court gave autonomy to local government by completely delinking them from any financial control erected by governors. But both the government, the judgment, and the bid for financial autonomy have appeared to falter. First, the states have outrightly resisted the push for autonomy until the Minister of Justice threatened them for deliberately and provocatively undermining the Supreme Court judgment. Second, after their open defiance, the governor sought for more time to resolve some technical issues plaguing the accounts opening with the Central Bank of Nigeria. No governor has, however, volunteered any explanation on whether those technical details have been fully and satisfactorily resolved or even partially resolved. In the words of the one-time Chief Justice of Nigeria, Alpha Begore, the elite are making terrible incursions into the Constitution. Our elite are very selfish people. The Constitution is supposed to be a very sacred document, but our people don't have respect for it. Whereas everything in the Constitution is like a gentleman's agreement between the state and the people, which must be respected. Thus, any federal arrangement like Nigeria, where the constitutions are not taken as an upright and sacred document, that must be respected by all, no matter how highly placed, coupled with real obedience to court verdicts, federalism will definitely run into troubled waters. In essence, operators of the system at all levels of government need to evolve a completely different attitude to the organic document of the state. The open confession of the late Professor Benny Wabisi, shortly before his demise, lent credence to this, that as a result of the Civil War experience, the center was made more powerful, contrary to the philosophy of federalism, making the system look more like a unitary system than a federal democracy. The concomitant effect for now is what students of Nigerian federalism call federal immobilism, Ojo 2009. The system is not working as it should, and at the same time, badly beleaguered. Ever since the military constitution was imposed on the polity, politicians and public policymakers have not found it easy to influence constitutional amendment that could whittle down the overbearing influence of the octopus federal government in a poorer and deeply divided society like Nigeria. This segment of the lecture will be incomplete without beaming a searchlight on the problematic nature of Nigerian citizenship, which has in no small measure undermined the efficacy of the federal architecture. Unlike India, where there is no dual citizenship, in which case there is only one Indian citizenship, and where the concept of a state citizen does not exist, also in contemporary Indian state. To be employed outside one's ethnic enclave in Nigeria, especially at state level, is a very big risk, career-wise, in the sense that such a person will bear the burden or toga of a non-indigent. Ojo, 2009. Furthermore, Nigeria's politics and dynamics of fiscal federalism are warped. It is a case of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Another major problem with the federal structure that cannot be overlooked as it exists in Nigeria is structural imbalance that has given rise to asymmetric relationships. Ojo 2008. A federation is morbid if one part of it is bigger than the sum of the other part. Ayọ̀adé 1988. A glance at the map of Nigeria presents a gloomy picture of a behemoth north that can swallow the rest of the country, especially in terms of land mass and census figures. Whereas no federation succeeds where one part is superior to the rest of them. It was in an attempt by the General Sani Abacha-led military regime to assuage the feelings of marginalization that brought about the division of the country into 6 geopolitical and administrative zones. That is, Northwest, 7 states, Northeast, 6 states, North Central, 6 states, Southwest, 6 states, Southeast, 5 states, and South-South, 6 states. Ojo, 2009. Finally, in view of all the aforementioned travails of federalism over the years, Ojo 2017, and not recently concluded that Nigeria's federal agreement is not only a fraud, but a road to nowhere. No wonder Nigerians are deeply divided now, more than how they were before the 30 months agonizing civil war. The inauguration of democracy in 1999 has led to the fulfillment of Ted Gore's theory of rising expectation and rising frustration, owing to the mismanagement of the federal architecture, which has beclouded whatever achievement federalism has made over the years. Federalism in Nigeria and appraisal. Vice Chancellor, sir, the thrust of this segment of the lecture is to determine whether or not federalism has been a successful option for Nigeria or not. Perhaps the answer will be adequately provided if we ask ourselves, like Ayọ̀adé did, what is it that Nigerians want in federalism? And what is it that federalism by its nature is capable of giving? Although having been practicing it since 1954 and surviving all the shocks, including a civil war, one may be tempted to say that federalism is a good option for Nigeria. This is because the expected unity in diversity, cum stability, that its founding father desired has not been attained at this juncture. One may need to emphasize that unity is not foundational. Unity is a derivative of the performance of government. It is not human to expel law from somebody that is oppressed. We go on talking about unity in diversity. And you have to emphasize further that unity in diversity is a contradiction. The much orchestrated unity in diversity, which formed the hub of Nigerian federalism, is informed by the desire to secure good governance based on liberty and the guarantee of the corporate liberties of the parties to the federal bargain. Thus, if federalism has not given Nigeria, has not taken Nigeria to the promised land, it may be that she has not up to now addressed herself to defining the goals and objectives desired from the system, or that she desires too much from the system, which federalism may be incapable of accomplishing. Ayọ̀adé 1988. From all indications, the system has not been all that successful in Nigeria Ojo 2020, if it has been and is devoid of frustrations and disaffections, the repeated calls for alternative models would have been unwarranted. For instance, one can easily recall that Olabisi Onabanjo, a former Second Republic governor of Ogun State, called for confederal arrangement as a more realistic option for Nigeria than the federalism of the 1979 Constitution, which in its way failed to take cognizance of the diversity which constitutes the greatest potential of greatness in our country. To lend credence to this, Frankel expressed the view that politically, Nigeria would be more stable if it were split into 2 or 3 federations. Similarly, the late Muammar Gaddafi, the erstwhile strongman of Libya, made similar suggestions. Within Nigeria itself, there have been agitations for confederacy as a more realistic solution to the country's problem of unity and stability. Since Onabanjo's call, notable Nigerians have also, of recent, demonstrated their frustrations and lack of faith in the federal solution to Nigeria's perennial problem of instability and nation-building effort, thereby suggesting numerous political models such as consensus government, diarchy, national government, government by natural rulers, among several others. Tom David West, a virologist and former federal minister, considered the problem of Nigerian federalism so daunting to the extent that he inferred that if all the above are not reasons sufficient enough for us to try other models of governance, then I am afraid we are simply playing the proverbial desert ostrich, a dangerous illusion. Much later, Bolagi, a federal attorney general and minister of justice, and first executive governor of the old Oyo State, was reported to have told the news magazine that what really bothers me, however, is that because of the injustice that is being done to the youth, they might not be as keen as some of us on the continued unity of this country. I think many youths, male and female, think that maybe the option is for different groups to go their separate ways. Nevertheless, each zone of the country seems to have one or more militia groups. In the southwest, the Odua People's Congress, OPC, OSWE, the south-south parade, the Egbesu boys, the southeast has the Bakassi boys, while the northeast has the Arawa boys, all of them championing ethnic and primordial interests with the attendant threat to the stability and integration of the polity. Indeed, prolonged military rule has bastardized the federal arrangement more than any other factor by virtue of its being commandist and paternalistic. The military has antithetical disposition to federalism. Successive military governments greatly promoted distortions of the federal balance, with civilian government unable to untangle many booby traps in the unworkable constitution inherited from the military era, restructuring the dynamics. In contemporary Nigeria, the latest lingua in virtually everybody's mouth is restructuring. Indeed, the call for restructuring is so deafening that both the ruling party and government cannot afford to close either their ear or eye to it, or see it as mere noise in the marketplace by the opposition element. Interestingly, however, the views about the singular word restructuring is as diverse as the people agitating for this, thus making it nebulous for any discerning mind attempt to decipher or comprehend restructuring in the Nigerian context may result in more confusion and or outright lack of clear understanding Ajimabi 2017. Besides, are we sure that what restructuring means to the Yoruba nation is what it is to those in the Southeast? Who says that restructuring, in the understanding of the South-South geopolitical zone, they pick similar thing to those in the Northeast? Thus, like the saying goes, different strokes for different folks. And that is exactly what the concept and idea of restructuring appears to be in contemporary Nigeria. Ojo 2019. For the purposes of this lecture, restructuring in its simplest form, however, is devolution of power from the center to the component unit in all ramifications. Restructuring, therefore, represents a continuous correction, adjustment, and reconfiguration process by which the federal system works and reworks its instrumentality. This is to guarantee success and efficiency of federalism. As far back as 1993, the Movement for National Reformation, MNR, after expressing profound frustration with the federal system, published a position paper advocating for the restructuring of Nigeria into a union of the following 8 federations: Western Federation, South Central Federation, East Central Federation, Southeastern Federation, Central Federation, Northeast Federation, Northern Federation, West Central Federation. Despite the MNR's elaborate proposal and those of others, which are technically confederal options, but the viability of Nigeria confederation is bogus indeed. According to Chuba Okadigo of blessed memory, a former Senate president, Nigeria confederation, though perhaps desirable, will be very difficult to negotiate and even harder to create. Who will implement confederal plan? The soldiers from northern Nigeria with cars placed face down, or those from the Middle Belt who may become very vulnerable to domination by their brethren of the far northern sector? Or do the advocates of confederacy think that Nigerians will gladly gather around in tables and gleefully dispense of the federation and its resources by sheer appeal to simple and often fraudulent geographical stratification? As recent as 2024 again, a national body spearheading the restructuring project of Nigeria, known as New Nigeria Movement, came up with another flamboyant idea of restructuring that will bring Nigeria to some 10 regions or 5 regions each in both the north and the south. 5 regions in the south, 5 regions in the north. One cannot easily ignore the extreme position of secessionists who believe strongly that Nigeria is better if dismembered. One of such groups is the Yoruba Peoples of Nigeria, coordinated by Yoruba Global Coalition. On March 22nd, 2021, they wrote His Excellency, Mr. Anthony Guthrie, Secretary General, United Nations, and Her Royal Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II of England, through Right Honorable Boris Johnson, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Our Royal Majesty government demanding peaceful exit through a process of plebiscite to be supervised by the United Nations in Yoruba nations. For space constraint, we can capture the proposal in few words. Our proposed constitutional arrangement outlines to back the United Regions of Nigeria, which will be a symmetric federal state, granting all regions equal status and power. The proposal went on to develop a new governance model for the United Regions of Nigeria, advocating for rotational presidency along geopolitical zones by taking care of all the zones simultaneously. The above proposal accommodates traditional rulers for them to be relevant in governance. The body concluded its recommendations by adding that constituent unit shall control and retain all resources and revenues within their natural jurisdictions, including territorial waters, and pay federal and regional taxes according to the law. The recommendations goes further than district or local government areas should have 30% of national revenue. Province or state, 25%. Regions, 25%. And central government, 20%. With another consensus that confederacy may not be a viable option after all. We can take a cue from the position of the ruling party or Progressive Congress in an advertorial in subnational dailies after its committee on restructuring went around the country. The report made some remarks on major issues that affect the future of Nigeria as an integrated country. The report revolves around the following: creation or merger of state, derivation principle, devolution of power, federating units, fiscal federalism, and revenue allocation, among others. Bipolar or tripartite federalism. Vice Chancellor, sir, contemporary debate vis-a-vis Nigerian federalism has shifted from bipartite to tripartite model. Hitherto, federal system was understood to consist of two levels of government: the level of the central government and the level of the constituent unit. Until very recently, and specifically on 11 July 2024, when the Supreme Court of Nigeria ruled on a case brought by the federal government concerning the autonomy of local councils and the third tier of government, Nigeria operates two-tier federal model. With the landmark judgment, Nigeria has legally transformed into a tripartite federal model. In a bipolar federal agreement, there are usually two main levels: a national, central, or federal level, and a state, provincial, or regional level. One unique feature of American federal model is that U.S. citizens will be subjected to two overlapping authorities in the federal and the state government, each having direct legislative power in their respective constitutionally prescribed spheres of competence. This created the model from which all subsequent federal systems have been directly or indirectly derived. A number of bipolar federal governments across the world include United States of America, Germany, South Africa, and Nigeria until very recently. Meanwhile, it is now widely accepted that no federal system can flourish without adapting to new circumstances and without having the capacity to modify its institutional architecture so as to improve efficiency and accountability. Though this may not be a reason to tinker with well-functioning bipartite system, but in the case of Nigeria, where state governors have suffocated the local government system, leading to their complete administrative inertia, a tripartite model is the most ideal. Tripartite federal model, therefore, appears to be the most suitable for Nigeria's level of development and desire for fast development. The current state of administrative inertia in virtually all the local government areas in the country is uncalled for. A properly constituted tripartite federal government is more suitable for Nigerians' existential reality. This is in line with the view of Gambari when he postulated that a radical restructuring of the Nigeria federal agreement with a view to significantly devolving power to the people at the community level where most exercise their livelihood. This call for a more comprehensive attention to the country's local government system as part of a bold effort at promoting bottom-up approach to governance, development, participation, and security. Community service. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my major community services, aside from teaching and research, from political science department, I was appointed as acting head of department on a number of occasions. I was a departmental examination officer. I was MPA seminar coordinator, member University of Ilorin Student Essay Competition, member Faculty Coffee Room Management Committee, level advisor, program organizer, master in international studies, public talk or presentation to the institutions and religious houses in my spare time. I was also a special advisor, political matters, to Oyo State governor between 18th March to 24th May 2015, and later chief of staff to the governor. I was conferred with the Justice of Peace, JP, in Oyo State. Conclusion. Without gainsaying, Nigerians are indeed resilient to have tolerated the system so far. The problem, however, is the wide gap between intent and actual practices. With political will by public policymakers, Nigerians are stable, integrated, and developed. The masses of the people need to be well mobilized to achieve integration and development. Not much can be attained without the masses, who are supposed to be catalysts for both national integration and national development. Recommendations. Vice Chancellor, sir, for the social sciences to maintain its utility and relevance, we need to make few recommendations as a roadmap to a better integrated and viable polity. Number one, Nigerians should remain a federal spirit in all ramifications. This will no doubt enhance the principle of justice and equity, and not necessarily equality. Federal spirit, no doubt, will truncate ethnic chauvinism. Number two, the principle of federal character must be strengthened, both in job opportunities and infrastructure provisions, to enhance spatial development. Number four, the Land Use Act should be repealed to allow communities naturally endowed with mineral resources to maximally benefit from them, rather than the extant system that is known to be robbing Peter to pay Paul. Royalty should be paid to the federal government, rather than federal government taking over solid minerals in state domains. A radical way out is no doubt a completely brand new federal constitution. The extant grand norm is essentially defective and an imposition by the military oligarchy, which has led to federal immobility. To achieve that, Nigeria may need to organize a referendum or constitutional convention or constituent assembly whose means of membership may have to be elected. Acknowledgement. First and foremost, I give all glory, honor, and adoration to God Almighty, the Alpha and Omega, for taking all the glory thus far. I am profoundly grateful to all who have played positive roles in getting me to the zenith of my career by complementing the role of God. I am indeed appreciative to all my teachers from primary school to secondary level, including tertiary level also. I therefore acknowledge with deep sense of gratitude the infallible direction and support of Emeritus Professor John Ajuade of the Department of Political Science, University of Ilorin. His tutelage and mentoring assisted greatly. Worthy of mention are Professors A.B. Agbaje, Konde Amuru of blessed memory, and Emmanuel Osagi, who unknowingly to him was my source of inspiration. He was the first person to teach me on my first day in the university classroom. Indeed, his charisma as an effective teacher, no doubt, rekindled my interest in the academia. Dr. Busari Adebisi of blessed memory also has a place in my heart as a good mentor. Besides, I also want to place on record the cooperation of an advisor of Professor Arthur Eben Davis of blessed memory, who incidentally was the acting head of the Department of Political Science in Ilorin when I was recruited in 1995 as an assistant lecturer. When I was recruited, it was indeed a tribalized Nigerian as a firm believer in academic freedom that promotes productivity, both agnostic, though agnostic. The confidence he reposed in me essentially paid off. I was to also say thanks to both the management and team and the entire members of Sanctuary of Christ Evangelical Church Incorporated Ibadan for their prayers and cooperation throughout my frequent absence in the church to perform my official duties. Their amazing support and prayers aided my career. I cannot forget Mr. Folonso Ajade of blessed memory, who trained me the art of typewriting free of charge for some years as an apprentice under him. This eventually facilitated my education from secondary school to all through tertiary level. I owe to God and him whatever I may become in life to that skill at a tender age that sustained me as a self-sponsored student. I also appreciate my father, late Elder Ezekiel Aderito Ojo, who died on the 11th of June 2001. Though he stark illiterate, but one who valued education tremendously, for enrolling me in primary school Abinisi. It was the Babi of CSC Grammar School, CSC District Headquarters, Ibadan, on your state. A prayer warrior whose fervent prayer for me affiliated much. Likewise, I cannot but remember and appreciate my late mother, Madam Awa Natsu Ajito Nyojo, who did not live long to witness the growth and the development of our only begotten son, or even wait to reap the fruit of our labor. All effort to trace our grave or get hold of a picture proved abortive. I did not know my mother in person. May her gentle soul rest in perfect peace. I also appreciate Senator Abiola Ajimobi, former executive governor of Oyo State, of blessed memory, for initiating me into pragmatic governance, having served in his government as a technocrat. This opportunity made me blend classroom theorizing with pragmatic workings of the government, cum politically and practical reality. Let me also say thanks to colleagues, both junior and senior, in the Department of Political Science, University of Ilorin, for harmonious working relationship over the years. As usual, the brunt of my being away from home fell heavily on my wife, also an engaging scholar, Professor Christina Ronke Ojo, who brought the body of my frequent absence from home, along with her children, Tope, a superintendent of police, Keke and Nicholas, Daddy, doctor of pharmacy, Ayomide, a barrister in the making. This gave me the rest of mine required for academic productivity that made me attain this high. Likewise, my son-in-laws deserve appreciation. Engineer Tifase and Mr. Olorunwa, I equally appreciate my grandchildren, Adeyanju and Adewale, for their love. I cannot but be profoundly appreciative to the successive management teams of this great university over the years for providing me with the conducive academic milieu which enabled my academic engagement to thrive. I say a big thanks to you all. Lastly, I am grateful to all individuals who cannot be mentioned for space constraint that have played positive roles in my life. Many thanks for your rapt attention. God bless you all. Amen.
Please be seated. So I want to thank you for being with us for these 291 inaugural lectures. The past and current council members, the university scholars, past and present vice chancellors that are with us, head of institutions, the principal officers of the university, the provosts and the deans of various faculties, the dean of PG School and the dean of student affairs, Professor Olarewaju Isa, immediate past university librarian. We thank you for being with us. Then His Excellency Chief Moses Alake Adeyemo, former Deputy Governor of Oyo State, thank you for being with us. Alhaji Olalekan Ali, former SSG to Oyo State Government, thank you. Professor Majid Alabi, former Speaker of Osun State House of Assembly, thank you. And former House of Rep. Provost College of Law, Osun State University, thank you for being with us. Chief Teju Isaac Ishola, former Honorable Commissioner for Environment, Oyo State, thank you. Alhaji Rahim Adedoyi, former Commissioner of Education, Kwara State, thank you for being with us. Professor Olusegun Adekunle, former Special Advisor to former Governor of Oyo State, thank you. Reverend Dr. and Mrs. Timothy Aderemi Adeniran of Ogoluwa Baptist Church. Thank you. Pastor E. Noble, CAC Taiwo. Thank you. Pastor and Lady Evangelist Lawrence Oetunji, Sanctuary of Christ Evangelical Church, Ibadan. Thank you for being around. Pastor Sunday Ogunsola, Sanctuary of Christ Evangelical Church, Ibadan. Thank you. All deacons and deaconesses and members of Christ Sanctuary Church, Ibadan, we thank you. Emeritus Professor J.A.A. Ayoade, the supervisor of our inaugural lecturer, and a one-time president, Nigerian Political Science Association. Thank you very much. Professor Olufemi Taiwo, former DG Nigeria Institute of Social and Economic Development and in Faculty of Social Sciences. Thank you. Barrister Akinlolu Oyebamiji, AOC Chambers, Ibadan. We are grateful. Professor Adedoyi Jola Ade, the former Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences of the Better by Far University. Thank you. Professor Peter Folorunsho Adebayo, thank you for being with us. Then the children of inaugural lecturer, the children that must have borne the absence when he was working on all this. Mrs. Temitope, Superintendent of Police, Lagos Command, you are blessed. Mrs. Kike Loma Eunice Olorunwa, an economist and an educationist. Congratulations. Dr. Oluwadamilare Philip Ojo, Federal Medical Center, Emeta, Lagos. Congrats and thank you for keeping Daddy fine during this work. Ayomide Temidayo Clement Ojo, law student, Unilag. You will soon be a barrister. Well done. Spouse of inaugural lecture, the scholar, in person of Professor Christiana Runke Ojo, who felt the brunt of being away. God bless you and thank you for the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then, so we stand up for.
Shall we arise for the university anthem, ladies and gentlemen?